Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids?
No comment.
No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? Where are your children? Yeah, why don't you just give us a comment? Just tell us where they are. Listen, just tell people what's happening. There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
That's great. You have nothing to say? Did you do something to your children? Are your children still alive? Chad, you guys have a lot to say on your podcast. Lori, this is your chance to tell your story.
The Vallow Daybell Doomsday murders are a series of killings, including child murder, filicide, and spousal murder. Committed by an American couple, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, led a Mormon religious group described by the media as the Doomsday Cult. The case was set in motion when Lori Vallow's daughter, Tylee, aged 16, and her younger adopted son, Joshua Jaxon, aged 7, disappeared on September 9 and September 23, 2019. The children were found buried in shallow graves in Rexburg, Idaho, on June 9, 2020. Tylee and J.J.'s remains were located in the backyard of Chad Daybell, who was Lori Vallow's lover at the time of their deaths, and had become her husband by the time their bodies were discovered. The case also involved the mysterious killings of Lori's previous husband, Charles Vallow, and of Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell. Welcome to Howtodealyt. Here, we go over all sorts of true crime stories. Some from the past, some from the present, serial killers, mass murderers, all of it. With the final sentencing delivered on this case in the beginning of June 2024, let's go over some of the shocking and horrible acts committed before this trial. Let's begin. Lori Noreen Cox was born on June 26, 1973, in Loma Linda, California. She grew up in a strict Mormon household. She was a hairdresser and was even a contestant in the Miss Texas beauty pageant. In 1992, Lori married her high school sweetheart named Nelson, but the marriage ended in divorce shortly afterwards. In 1995, Lori married a man named William when she was 22 years old. They had a son named Colby before divorcing in 1998. In 2001, Lori married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., who legally adopted Colby. They had a beautiful daughter together, Tylee Ryan, who was born in 2002. They divorced in 2005, with Lori accusing Ryan of sexually assaulting Tylee and Colby. In February 2006, Lori married Charles Vallow, a devout Catholic who converted to Mormonism for his newfound love. Charles had 2 kids from a previous marriage. In 2013, they adopted Charles' grandnephew Joshua Jaxon, known by simply JJ. His birth parents were drug addicts who were unable to care for him. He was eventually diagnosed with autism. They moved to Kauai in late 2014 and moved back to Arizona 2 years after that. Around 2015, Lori became obsessed with a series of books titled Standing in Holy Places, written by none other than Chad Daybell. In 2017 to 2018, she became increasingly invested in radical religious beliefs, reading books about near-death experiences and listening to podcasts by excommunicated Mormons. In October 2018, along with 2 of her friends, Lori attended a Preparing a People event, a doomsday preparation focused on series of events organized by Mormons. The stated goal of these events is to prepare the people of this earth for the second coming of Jesus Christ. There, she met Chad Daybell for the first time. Her friends both said that Lori had behaved in a very flirtatious manner with Chad at the conference. Chad claimed to Lori that they had been married in multiple previous lifetimes. They started communicating privately afterwards. Chad Daybell was born on August 11, 1968, in Provo, Utah, to a Mormon family. he met Tammy Douglas in college and got married on March 9, 1990. They have 5 children together. After he graduated with a bachelor's in journalism, he would support himself by working as a gravedigger. His first religious themed novel was published in 1999 titled An Errand for Emma. In 2001, he published One Foot in the Grave, a nonfiction book that chronicled his experience working in cemeteries. In 2004, Chad founded his own book company, which he used to self-publish his belief regarding the end of times as well as other religious-themed books. In 2007, the local newspaper described the company as being one of the leading Latter-day Saints publishers. By the end of the 2000s, Chad Daybell faced financial problems. He salvaged his company and found an audience among people concerned by the second coming of Jesus, apocalyptic situations, and dystopian futures, becoming a popular author and speaking in some radical Mormon circles. He claimed to have had 2 near-death experiences that allow him to receive supernatural visions from beyond the veil. He commented, "I don't fictionalize any of the events portrayed in my books. I'm really not that creative. My torn veil allows information to be downloaded into my brain from the other side. The scenes I am shown are real events that will happen." During one of Lori's husband's business trip, he had given her the opportunity to hold a small overnight gathering at her home. Chad was among the attendees, with Chad captivating Lori and the group by sharing his Mormon-influenced but unique beliefs. Chad believed in reincarnation. He claimed to have lived 31 previous lives on different planets, and that Lori had lived 21 separate lives, 5 of which coincide with his own experiences on Earth. A religious group formed around Chad and his teachings. Chad and Lori told their followers that they belonged to the Church of the Firstborn, of which Chad was a leader. The group included some of Lori's own friends and family. They even hosted a radical religious podcast together. On February 2019, Lori reportedly informed her husband Charles that she no longer cared about him or JJ. According to Charles' filing, Lori had told him that he was possessed by a dark spirit called Ned Snyder.
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers."
She then vanished for 58 days. The same month, Charles filed for divorce, citing threats to his life, as well as the theft of his truck and $35,000 from their joint bank accounts.
She's lost her mind. I don't know how else to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a God, and remember the 144,000. She's come. Jesus is coming next year. She took all the money out of her bank account today. My truck has gone from the airport. She went to the airport and got it. I just flew in from Houston, from Dallas.
He even changed his life insurance beneficiary. 11 days before his death, Charles sent an email to Tammy Daybell to inform her that their spouses were cheating. The next day, Charles told Lori that he planned to meet Tammy in person. On July 11, 2019, Charles went to pick up JJ at Lori's home in Chandler, Arizona. Alex Cox, Lori's brother, was present. An altercation occurred and Alex shot and killed Charles, later claiming self-defense.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
Who else is there in the house with you?
Just me.
Alex alleged that he had confronted Charles about abusing his sister and retrieved his gun in response to being struck with a bat.
So you pulled him to the ground, you got back up.
I got back up. He hit me in the back of the head. I don't know if it was with the bat or not. I assume it was.
Okay.
Because he had it.
No charges were pressed. Days after Charles' death, Chad sent Lori a love story, more like a romantic novel, in the form of a series of text messages, giving a detailed description of their sexual relationship. By the end of August, Lori relocated to Rexburg, Idaho with her children and her brother Alex Cox. On September 17, 2019, a doorbell video captured J.J. playing with a friend, the last known footage of him. On September 22nd, two of Lori's companions, Melanie and David, were staying over at her home. Around 10:30 p.m., David saw Alex take J.J., who was sleeping, upstairs to his bedroom. This was J.J.'s last confirmed sighting. On the next morning, J.J. was absent. Lori told the guests that J.J. had been misbehaving, so Alex Cox had picked him up. Tylee was last heard of in October 2019. Her older half-brother Kobe expressed concerns towards Tylee through text. He received responses indicating she was fine, but too busy to talk. Kobe became more worried after repeated calls to Tylee went unanswered. The FBI uncovered text messages in which Lori and Chad discussed the children's possession and mentioned a perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children. A text exchange between Lori and Alex Cox mentioned working on Z's, referring to the kids as zombies. Back in February 2019, Chad told his neighbors, Todd and Alex Gilbert, that he had a vision that Tammy would pass away before her 50th birthday. In October 9, 2019, Tammy reported that a masked man attempted to shoot at her in her driveway with what she believed was a paintball gun. Police considered the incident a prank and were unable to identify the man. 10 days later, Tammy was found dead in her home, seemingly from natural causes. Chad stated that she had gone to bed the previous night with a terrible cough and passed away in her sleep. He mentioned that Tammy had been suffering from low blood pressure, seizures, and an adverse reaction to homeopathic medicines, although her medical records did not support these claims. The day after Tammy's funeral, Chad introduced Lori to his children. The week after that, he presented Lori to his neighbors as well. Todd and Alice found it very odd that he already had moved on. They also found it awkward how they would laugh and giggle when speaking about how both of them bonded over losing their spouses. Chad and Lori got married in Hawaii on November 5, 2019, just 2 weeks after Tammy's death, and 2 months after Tylee and J.J. were murdered. A fact not known yet to others, they still think her kids just went missing. Investigators later found in Lori's search history that she had ordered a pair of wedding rings in August 2019, several months before Tammy's death. She even searched for wedding dresses on the day of Tammy's burial. On November 26, police visited Lori's townhouse in Rexburg for a welfare check on J.J. at the request of Charles Vallow's sister, Kay Vallow Woodcock. A detective initially found Chad and Alex Cox at Lori's home. Both men acted suspiciously, with Alex not knowing that it was Kay who had requested the welfare check, claiming that J.J. was with Kay Vallows, and Chad, whom the detective knew he was married to Lori, saying that he was a friend of Alex and that he hardly knew Lori. Police later reached Lori, who claimed that J.J. was in Arizona with her friend Melanie Gibb. However, when contacted by police, Melanie stated that J.J. had not been with her for several months. On the following day, with all these inconsistent stories, the FBI was granted a search warrant to search Lori's home. Unfortunately, upon arrival, the house was completely abandoned. Lori and Chad had returned to Hawaii, where they reside in a gated community in Kauai, living off the money Chad had received from Tammy's life insurance. On December 6, 2019, Melanie Gibb contacted the police, revealing that both Lori and Chad had called her separately on the day of the welfare check and had asked her to tell police that JJ was with her. Police efforts to locate JJ led to the discovery that Tylee was also missing. Chad and Lori's departure from Idaho seemed very skeptical to police. they also decided to further investigate Tammy's death. Her body was exhumed for an autopsy on December 11th. Back in November of 2019, Chad called Alex Cox a prophet and a hero, and predicted that he would have a future as a messenger of the Lord for all the help he gave himself and Lori. Alex died on December 12, 2019. His death was attributed to blood clots and high blood pressure. This was the day after Tammy's body was exhumed. He had told a member of the church, who later testified, that Alex was worried about being Lori and Chad's fall guy.
About maybe a year or two ago, Lori started reading some books and near-death experience books and started saying some weird things. She, talks to Jesus in the temple, and she's married to Moroni.
On December 20, the Rexburg Police Department announced that the children were officially missing and asked for the public's assistance in locating them. Investigators expressed concern over the fact that Chad and Lori had opted to leave the state instead of helping with the investigation. The next day, police announced Lori and Chad as persons of interest. The case soon received national coverage, with family and friends describing Chad and Lori's cult-like beliefs in interviews and on social media posts. On January 25, 2020, after Lori and Chad were located in Kauai, law enforcement agents served them with a court order requiring Lori to physically produce within 5 days Tylee and J.J. to the Idaho Department of Welfare, or to the Rexburg Police Department. The next day, police seized the couple's rental car and searched their rental townhome in Kauai, where they found Tylee's debit card and JJ's iPad. On the 26th, Chad and Lori were confronted over the children's disappearance by East Idaho news journalist Nate Eaton.
Listen, just tell people what's happening. There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
That's great. That's great that they're praying for you, praying for your kids. What? Did you do something to your children? Are your children still alive?
They refused to answer any questions. On February 20, 2020, after failing to comply, Lori was arrested in Hawaii by the Kauai Police Department. 2 weeks later, she was extradited back to Idaho. On June 9, during a search of Chad's property, police discovered human remains buried in the backyard. The bodies were found in an area known by the Daybell family as the Pet Cemetery, where they had previously buried their cats and dogs. Tragically, while digging in areas of the backyard where Alex Cox's cell phone had pinged in September 2019, they uncovered human remains buried in shallow graves. They were of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. When police began unearthing the bodies, Chad attempted to drive away but was pursued, captured, and arrested. Due to the horrific state of Tylee's burned remains, her cause of death was ruled a homicide by unspecified means. Tylee's bones were fractured in several places, and her hands were chopped off. It was determined that the boy has been asphyxiated with a plastic bag and duct tape over his mouth. He was wrapped in plastic before being buried.
His hands were folded about chest high. He had duct tape continuously wrapped from elbow all the way around his arm.
Alex Cox's fingerprints and Lori's hair were found on the plastic and duct tape on JJ's remains. After months of litigation, waiting for pleas, and Lori's mental health examination and treatments, the trial was set to begin. And both of them was going to be tried separately. Lori's trial started on March 2023. On May 12th, after considering all of the evidence and testimonies piled against her, she was found guilty of all the charges, which included the murder of JJ, the murder of Tylee, and the conspiracy to commit murder for Tammy. The judge stated that Lori murdered her children to remove them as obstacles and to profit financially by choosing the most evil and destructive path possible and going down a bizarre religious rabbit hole to justify their killings. She was sentenced to consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Chad Daybell's trial was set to begin a year after Lori's and began in April 2024. By the end of May, Chad was convicted of first-degree murder of his wife Tammy Daybell and Lori's 2 kids. On June 1st, 2024, Chad was sentenced to death. I wonder which other of his 31 previous lives on different planets had the same outcome. Rest in peace to the lives lost due to these 2. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and possibly sharing it. It helps get our name out there and gets us in positive terms with YouTube's killer algorithm. Follow us on Facebook for exclusive content. Whenever you are feeling that true crime documentary itch and wondering how to deal with that, feel free to visit our channel anytime for that scratch. Thanks for watching.